You installed Hyprland, and immediately in the same session, probably in the same hour, you started configuring your bar, your terminal theme, your launcher, your color scheme, and your animations all at once. 15 browser tabs open, 4 config files being edited simultaneously, and by the end of the night, nothing worked properly. You couldn't tell which config broke what, and your desktop looked worse than the defaults that you started out with. I've done this, you've done this, everyone's done this, and it's the single biggest reason people's first few weeks on Hyprland are miserable instead of exciting. There's an order that works, okay? A specific sequence, one thing at a time, in the right order, where each step gives you a stable foundation for the next one. Follow it, and every session produces visible progress. Ignore it, and you spend your evenings debugging 5 tools at once, wondering which one is the problem. What's going on, everyone? I'm Sane. I have been writing Hyprland for 4 years, to the point where I can easily make custom theme switchers like this one with my eyes closed. And today, I have to tell you the exact order I'd configure a Hyprland setup from scratch. And more importantly, I'm going to explain why each step has to come before the next. This isn't a tutorial. I'm not going to show you how to configure each tool. I'm going to show you when, because the when matters more than most people realize. Let me explain the underlying principle first, okay? Because once you understand it, the specific order becomes obvious. Every tool in your Hyprland setup depends on something below it. When you configure things out of order, you're decorating a house that hasn't been built yet, let's just say. You're picking curtain colors before the walls are even up, and then when you finally get around to building the walls, the curtains don't fit, and then you have to redo them. That's exactly what happens when someone configures their waybar theme before their monitor settings are correct. The bar looks wrong at the wrong scale on the wrong monitor, and every CSS value they chose has to be redone once the monitors are fixed. All that time just wasted. Not because they're bad at CSS, but because they did CSS before they did monitors. The order eliminates rework. Every setup you complete correctly stays correct because nothing below it changes after the fact. That's the goal. Now, before you touch any external tool, your compositor, that itself needs to be solid. This means 3 things and only 3 things. So first thing is going to be monitors, right? If I show you my monitor config file, it looks something like this. So monitors.conf. And if you notice, there's an extra folder here called modules. Now, what I've done is basically taken the main hyprland.conf file and then split it into multiple different files so that you don't have to actually look for a needle in a haystack when it comes to one specific particular setting. Because then if you have a hyprland.conf file with like 450 different lines that you have to scroll through, it becomes very tedious very fast. So what I've done is basically created a separation of concerns so that each file has its own topic that's going to be covered inside of that. So inside of monitors.conf, naturally you're going to find all my monitor settings, and that's basically what you're seeing over here. Now, if you want to learn how to make something like this for yourself, this new layout, as well as the new Lua syntax that Hyprland has switched on over to, as well as how to make custom wallpaper switchers and theme switchers like this one, the one that you're seeing right over here, all without copying a single line of dot files from anywhere else, okay, all on your own, you can go ahead, click the first link in the description right now and check out the program. I also teach you how you can make notification centers like this one, as well as lock screens and everything else that you could ask for from a setup. Converting Hyprland into a full desktop environment, more something along the likes of Ent4 and ML4W, Noctalia, Celestia, all those big names without you having to copy and paste anything, all on your own. So you can make your own distro of sorts and then package it up and then, share it to the world if you wanted to. So if you want to learn how to do that, you can go ahead, click the first link in the description right now and check out the program. Great. So as for monitors, your resolution, so that's going to be, I have 2 monitors. So my main monitor is going to be 2560 by 1440. This one is it's an odd refresh rate number, but that's what's been shown inside of HyperCTL monitors. If I show you that, the HyperCTL monitors, that's exactly what it gives me here. And so that's what's going to be used. That's great. Then next thing is going to be position. So that's 0x0s. This is the primary monitor. And then the scaling. All of this needs to be correct before you actually go ahead and choose the sizes for your fonts on the bar, and then the icons and the colors and everything else that you're going to pick. If you have multiple monitors, their relative positioning needs to be dialed in so that windows don't jump to the wrong screen and your bar doesn't render on the wrong display. Everything else that you build sits on top of this. If your monitors itself are wrong, okay, your bar will be in the wrong place, your launchers will appear on the wrong screen, and then your screenshots will end up capturing the wrong area. No bueno. 4 settings, okay? Gaps, let's show you that. So that's going to be inside of decorations, hypermodules, decorations.conf. Okay, here, I'm pretty sure this is rounded. That's what I'm using. So as you can see, this is what I've got so far. So gaps, borders, and basic decorations, you want that sort of stuff. Pick reasonable values, something like 8, what have I used? 8 for inner gaps and then 20 for outer gaps. Okay, then for border size, because I'm going for a more of a minimalist aesthetic, I've gone 1 for border size, and then not something like blue or red, because I would be standing out too much, but actually something that's a bit more subtle and then blends in with the theme while still letting you know the active window. These don't have to be final, okay? As for the rounding as well, rounding is 25, rounding power is 10. Okay, I've just made it so that it's kind of like a rectangle that's also been, shaved off. The edges shaved off using, sand, a belt grinder or whatever those are called. It's one of those machines where you have sandpaper that spins on a belt. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's called a belt grinder. Anyway, the windows have been grinded into this sort of shape using a belt grinder, and that's that. So if you want to change the rounding as well, you can do that, right? Nothing like the values that you're seeing over here, they don't need to be final. But they need to exist first because every visual decision you make after this point is made in the context of these values. If you're going to change your gaps from 6 to 20 later, okay, your bar padding that looked perfect at 6 will look wrong at 20. So you want to get close now and then refine it later. And then screen tearing, okay? Personally, I have not come across a time when not configuring screen tearing properly has actually led me to experience screen tearing, but you are most likely going to want to set misc:\VFR, okay, variable frame rate equal to false immediately. So if you have tearing and then you're actually seeing the windows, what do you call it? Basically break apart and then you're basically seeing screen tearing, okay, just turn off variable refresh rate and that's going to fix it for you, okay? That's it for step 1. No theming, no animations, no external tools, just a compositor that renders correctly on the right monitors with reasonable gaps and then no tearing. Good. Next thing is going to be the keybinds. Keybinds comes second before any rising. Let me pull up my keybinds file so you can see a list of all the keybinds that I've got. Quite a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go through it so you can see what exactly I've configured. Now, my config is not exactly the most minimal one, but I can tell you it is definitely one of the most featureful ones. Okay, complete with custom theme switchers and wallpaper switchers, as well as waybar layout switchers. Let's see what else we have, man. We have decoration switchers as well. I can switch decorations with a simple press of a keybind. Font switchers as well. So basically, everything that you could need. Great. And of course, if you want to learn how to make something like this yourself, first link in the description, you can go ahead, click it right now, and it has you covered. Okay, now, the reason why your keybinds come second is because if your keybinds are uncomfortable, every rising session is slower, and you're fighting your own muscle memory when you're trying to focus on colors and spacing, right? The friction ends up compounding. So, you want to set your keybinds now before you develop muscle memory around the defaults. Close window, open terminal, launch app launcher, move focus, switch workspace, switch window to workspace, toggle float, toggle full screen, resize. These are the operations you'll perform thousands of times, and each one should be the key combination your fingers happen to instinctively reach for. Don't use the Hyprland defaults unless they happen to match your instincts, right? That just goes without saying. Don't use anyone else's keybind scheme as well. That also goes without saying. Think of the action, notice what your hands want you to do, and then bind that. 20 minutes now saves you from retraining muscle memory later, which is genuinely painful. Now, I say this because I have experienced it myself, and I genuinely would not wish anybody else to go through the same thing that I did. So naturally, when you're making complicated stuff like this, okay, you're going to have to spend a lot of time just switching around between different windows and then testing different stuff. Like, let's say getting this Rafi theme done, for example. If you keep using the default, keybind of something like super or, when that's not the most comfortable thing for you, okay, on your particular keyboard, let's just say, instead of super D, which is what most people use, okay, and then you end up getting used to it, that's not exactly the best experience ever, because then once you have finished configuring your tool and then finally you go and change the keybinds, and then you're instinctively reaching for super key and R instead of mod key and, alt and D in my case. Yeah, not exactly fun. So that's why you want to do keybinds second. The third step is going to be your terminal. The terminal comes third because it's the tool you'll use to configure everything else. If your terminal is uncomfortable, every subsequent configuration session is uncomfortable. So pick your emulator. You can choose Kitty, Foot, Ghosty, whatever you prefer, right? Set your font size, your padding, and your base opacity, and get it to a state where you can comfortably read and edit text for hours, because that's exactly what you're about to do. Don't theme it yet, okay? Let me show you my Kitty config. So, kitty.conf. Yeah, so as I was saying, don't theme it just yet. No color scheme beyond the defaults. Just make sure the font is right, the size is right, and then the padding gives your text room to breathe. The reason you don't theme the terminal yet is that your color scheme doesn't exist yet. If you picked terminal colors now, you'll change them when you set up your theming pipeline later. Wasted work, but the font and the padding, those don't actually change with your theme. You just set them once and then you set them right. That's it. Now, and only now do you add your first external rising tool, which is waybar or whatever status bar you're using. The bar comes before theming because the bar is where your color decisions become visible. It's the largest persistent UI element on your screen. When you eventually end up picking a color scheme, the bar is where you'll evaluate whether those colors actually work. If your bar doesn't exist yet, you have nowhere to see your colors in context. So I would suggest you to start with 5 modules maximum. Workspaces, clock, volume, network, and battery. Okay, this one, the weather and the media, I've added later once I've established an actual layout for my bar. This fits in pretty cleanly, doesn't look too cluttered and whatnot, so this works for me. But for you, Just start with 5 modules, get it to look right, okay? Resist the urge to add more. Because the goal right now is to get the layout, spacing, and the font correct and not to display every piece of system information that you can think of. So focus on CSS structure, the padding inside modules, margin between modules, font family, and weight. Get these right with your default colors, and the bar will look clean freaking immediately. Let's show you my style.css. This is what it looks like. The font size is 16 pixels, min height is 0 because I'm controlling the height elsewhere through padding and other stuff. And this is basically my bar config. Okay, these are the values that I'm using for the workspace buttons, as well as everything else. Okay, there you go, 15 pixels of margin. No, padding actually. So it actually looks right. And then margin, that's 12 pixels. So that's, as you can see, that's what it looks like. Great. So this is actually where most people end up going wrong, okay? They install Wayboard and then immediately try to configure 15 different modules at the same time, a custom color scheme, and then a complex multi-section layout all in one session. Then, of course, obviously, things break, and then they cannot tell which module caused which problem, and then they spend the rest of the evening debugging instead of building. So one tool, one session, 5 modules, clean spacing, and then you gotta move on. Now, step 5 is going to be the launcher. Your launcher comes next, right? So Fuzzle, Rafi, whatever launcher that you choose. You might even write one with Quickshell if that's your thing, or yeah, just Rafi, let's just say, okay? You can configure it with default colors, get the font and the sizing right, make sure it appears where you want it to on screen, and then bind it to a key. So same principle as a bar, structure before color. Get the width, the number of visible lines, the padding, and the icon settings right. Colors come in the next phase when you have a theming pipeline that handles everything at once. The reason the launcher comes after the bar and not before is dependency order, right? When you eventually set up theming, you want your major UI elements to already exist so you can see the theme applied across multiple surfaces simultaneously. Your bar, terminal, and launcher are the 3 surfaces where your theme is most visible. All 3 need to exist before the theme does. Now, if you're hearing this and thinking, I wish someone had told me this before I spent 3 weeks configuring things in random order, that's exactly why Hyper Accelerator exists. It's built around this exact sequencing principle, every module built on the last one, and so nothing gets configured out of order. Never waste time redoing work because a later step invalidated an earlier one. And of course, I also teach you there how to make custom theme switchers like this one, as well as wallpaper switchers and all the fancy effects that any Hyprland user could ask for. So if you wanted to, you can go ahead, click the first link in the description right now and check out the program. Now, with your compositor, keybinds, terminal, bar, and launcher all structurally complete, you add color. This is the step that ties everything together visually, okay? Whether you're using Mantigen for dynamic wallpaper-based colors, a static color scheme like Grovebox or Capuchin, right? This is where you implement it. It could even be a custom palette that you built yourself. Not before, okay? You have to do it now because now you have 3 surfaces to apply to. Your terminal, your bar, and then your launcher, and you can immediately see whether the colors work across all of them. Great. Now, if you'd picked colors on day 1, which is what most people do, you would have spent time theming a terminal that didn't have the right font yet, or for a bar that didn't exist yet with a launcher that had not been configured yet. So like, what's the point there, right? And when you finally do, build those tools and then get the configurations for them, the colors you picked in isolation wouldn't look right in context, and so you would redo them. The order prevents this. This is also where you build your wallpaper script, the one that changes your wallpaper, generates colors, and uploads your, not actually uploads, but reloads your applications in one command. And if you're building a custom theme switcher with multiple handcrafted palettes, this is where you set that up as well, right? The pipeline depends on all your tools being configured first, because the pipeline needs to know which config files to write to and which applications to actually reload. Great. So with your visual identity established, you add the desktop environment layer. So notifications via something like sway&c or Dunst. Here I'm using sway&c. Lock screen via hyperlock. Idle management via hyperidle. Logout menu via wlogout. Ta-da. Then screenshots tool via something like Grimblast or Hypershot. I personally use Hypershot. Then if you're going to use volume and brightness OSDs, you do that using Sway OSD. These come late because they're functional. Okay, if I was to show you OSDs, this is one example for Nightlight that I'm using right over here, right? Pretty sweet, yeah. So as I was saying, these come late because they're functional and not foundational. Your desktop works without them, but they make it feel complete. And because your color scheme already exists by this point, you can just theme each of these tools as you add them, matching them to your existing palette immediately instead of coming back later to retheme them. So 1 tool per session, same rule as before, add sway&c, theme it, verify it works, next session add hyperlock, next session add wlogout, and don't rush this phase. Each tool takes 15 to 30 minutes to configure properly. Trying to do all of them all at once is how you end up burnt out and just calling it quits. I've come so close to just quitting writing and then throwing my computer down into the freaking trash can, okay, from a very, very tall building simply because I refuse to take a break. And so I would rather you not experience the same thing. And so for your own good, I'm telling you not to just cram ricing every single tool into one session. Okay, space it out, make it enjoyable, listen to some music, go probably get a coffee or something, go walk around. You don't want this to be a chore, okay? We have enough chores in our day-to-day lives, you and me both. So you want this to actually be something that you enjoy. Great. Then, animations, they come last. Not because they're unimportant, they're one of the most impactful parts of a rise, but because animations, they're the polish layer, right? They make an already good setup feel great. They cannot make a broken setup feel functional, however. If you configure animations before your window rules are set, let's say, you will animate behaviors that change once you add window rules, naturally. If you configure them before your gaps and borders are dialed in, the spatial context of the animations will shift when you adjust those values. So basically, what that means is the space surrounding the space surrounding the windows basically is going to change, which most likely is going to affect how the animation looks, because at certain gap sizes, certain animations tend to look better. Okay, with springy ones, it helps if you have a lot of gap because nothing overlaps anything else. But with more cramped gap sizes, or even just lesser gap sizes, you want something where the animation isn't as springy. So that's exactly why you should configure animations after you're done with all the window rules and everything. Okay, if you configure them before, again, that's basically you're going to have lots of overlap, and then most likely you're not going to want that to happen. Everything underneath needs to be dry first before you apply animations, which are the last coat of paint. Then define your Bezier curves. Let's show you my animations. I have split it into Hyper modules animations.conf. Right, animations.conf. This is anime.conf. So let's go there. Anime.conf. So in here, I have these custom defined Bezier curves, and I'm using those Bezier curves inside of the different animations for different parts of the compositor. You can assign different curves to different animation types: windows opening, windows closing, workspace switches, fades, adjust your speeds. Test everything by actually using your desktop, by the way, not just by opening and closing the same window 50 times, and live with the animations for a day before you finalize them. What feels great in a 5-minute test can feel exhausting after 8 hours. Okay, so to conclude the principle underneath all of this, here's a one-sentence version of everything that I just said, okay? You want to build from the inside out. The compositor is the innermost layer. Everything else sits on top of it. The terminal, bar, and the launcher are the next layer. They depend on the compositor. The theme is the next layer. It depends on all the tools existing. The desktop environment pieces, they're the next layer. They depend on the theme. And animations, well, they're the outermost layer, right? They depend on everything else being stable underneath. Each layer wraps around the one below it, so you want to build inward layers first. Never build an outer layer before the inner layer it depends on is finished. Follow this, and every session produces permanent progress, okay? Violate it, however, and you will spend half your time redoing work that just got invalidated by a later change. So, the next time you sit down to configure your Hyprland setup, ask yourself one question before you start. Is this the layer below, is the layer below this one actually finished? If it's not, do that first. It's less exciting than jumping straight to animations and color schemes, but it's the difference between a setup that takes a week to build and stays solid, and a setup that takes a month to build and keeps falling apart. And if you want this entire sequence laid out step by step with nothing left to guess, Hyper Accelerator follows this exact order. Each module builds on the last, and you never touch a tool before its dependencies are in place. You can go ahead, click the first link in the description right now, and check out the program. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Stay rising.